Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Ellen. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and here's part 2 of our interview with Edita Atteck.
These are the ones who work like 8, 10, 12 hours a day nonstop, and they can't go to sleep, and they wake up in the morning and they want to do something else. And for those, going straight into some kind of a meditative practice maybe not the best thing to do immediately, because they need to learn how to regulate their nervous system first.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. There is never a one approach for all.
Yeah.
You really need to understand as to where you are, what your pattern is, what patterns you have reinforced over your life, and then start from that understanding and then slowly apply these things until you get to that healthy flow. And it's a lifetime.
It's got to be a lifetime. It's got to be a work in progress forever, right?
Well, I mean, you're refining and getting better. I don't really think that we have, ever reached the end of the journey when we work on our self-improvement. For me, I say it will be at my last breath. Right. But I mean, when you look at the world, what we're experiencing now, the news that we are hearing, we're constantly exposed to so many, threatening news, or like today when you say the word violence, like with the stuff that is happening in terms of gun violence and everything, like it's just coming to you from every angle. Like, how do people really process this? And it will be much harder to process for those who are a little bit stuck and whose system is dysregulated a bit.
No question
about it. But it's going to affect everybody, even those who work on themselves every single day, because how can you not respond to something incredibly tragic and not feel compassion and maybe even a little bit of a fear, like what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So we live in a very intense world, and that's why, this is a daily practice. There's no other way to go about it.
So you're a life success coach. And
yeah, I have always wondered what exactly to call myself. Because there is no other category, like, this is what people respond to. This is what sometimes people search on Google.
Right.
So basically, although I work with people who are in business, because one of the things when I was sort of searching over the last 10 years, who are the best people for me to work with? Because I think my ultimate mission is to help humanity to return to wholeness, because there's so much fragmentation happening. Where do you start? And then I realized, according to statistics, about half, this is at least in Canada, I'm sure it will be similar in the U.S., but I think next year or so, about half of the working population will be self-employed. And these are the people who are, the change agents, who are bringing new ideas, who need to figure out how to take care of themselves. So I kind of thought these professionals are going to be the people that I can work with, who will eventually lead, who will show an example to others who also want to be, if they choose to be parents, they can model. Because one of the things I cannot emphasize enough for every parent, it's not to tell your kid how to behave, it's to model a healthy nervous system, a regulated nervous system, and that happens through who we are being.
Is that professionally and personally, that feels like the self-leadership that you talk about.
Yes.
Right?
You can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. Plain and simple.
Yeah. That is that simple. And it's fascinating to me how many of us don't take the time to think about that. Maybe it hasn't been mentioned to us. Maybe we haven't read it on a blog. Maybe we inhaled our lunch in 17 seconds and we didn't have time to think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Those are all true. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. I'm fascinated by what you do and how you do it. You've got seminars. Your e-course. That's mywholenessrevolution.com, if I remember correctly, and that's your 8-week.
That's right.
That's your 8-week course.
That's right. That's for people who are willing to start the first few steps, and just to, number one, educate yourself. You can't change anything that you're not aware of, right? And so that's the very first step for that. And of course, the book is very easily accessible. And as you may have noticed, one of my influencers, because I wanted to marry the world of health and wellness and research on nervous system and trauma with day-to-day professional who may not even think has any problems. And so I was always fascinated by the works of Dr. Gabor Mate, who is a well-respected physician, speaker, and researcher around the world, I would say. And so his work, and also Dr. Peter Levine and some of the other ones, and how do I marry those two worlds, and how do I work and help humanity to return to wholeness, and help, people to become better parents, better leaders, better partners.
Well, and because
as you help the world.
Well, yeah, and I think if I hear you correctly, I mean, you talk about our operating system, whether it's professional, personal, whatever. You have to be in some kind of place somewhere, somehow, to be able to lead yourself so you can lead others, model for your kids, model for your family, model for your employees, right?
Yeah.
And bring everybody on board so that they feel better about themselves because you feel better about yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And for the workplace, it applies the same thing. It's the connection, not the physical presence.
Yeah.
Right? How do you create that connection? People trust each other. Unless you have that presence of safety, your nervous system, although it doesn't communicate in words, it senses it, and you will feel uncomfortable. You will feel maybe a little bit anxious. You just don't know. You have no words how to put it there, but you just don't have the sense of safety. And with that, it triggers the brain, and people start thinking, "Oh my gosh, am I going to be laid off? Am I going to have enough to pay my mortgage? Whatever else."
Right.
It's a circle, and it's a pattern, and that's why we have so many people who are sick from stress, and we have chronic illness on the rise. We have all kinds of other autoimmune illness on the rise, depression, anxiety, young kids. I won't even go there because that's an entirely different subject. I mean, we have a lot of issues, and I think one way is just to find a way to, each of us who has a mission is to contribute to making a better world and helping humanity and helping our planet.
Well, that's right. And I'm looking at some of the stuff on your website, and I'm going, one of your main goals was to stop overthinking. Hello, I noticed my picture right there on your website. So I'm going, uh-oh, I'm busted. And I'm better than I used to be, I think, because I find myself going at a slower, slower pace, I think, where I'm paying more attention rather than being in such a hurry on the jet plane. I'm just kind of taking a puddle jumper to kind of look over the thing. And
yeah, and you can sometimes imagine that you're like riding a wave. Mm-hmm. You're moving up a little bit, and then you're coming down a little bit. So there's always this little bit of movement. You're not being completely stagnant inside.
Yeah.
And sometimes a little bit of visualization can help as well. So maybe you can apply that next time and give it a try. Let me know how it went for you.
You got it. So when you have, I hope you're okay with this. We've gone over 20 minutes, and I'm thrilled to keep going if you're
absolutely.
Okay with that.
No problem.
So when you do some private sessions, there's got to be some give and take. Are we a good match? I mean, how do you sense that, or how do they sense that, I guess?
And again, it's a mutual conversation. We are mammals. We have the same kind of sense like our pets and the animals in the wild. We can sense when we are pulling towards each other, when we create that place of trust, because if that place of trust is not there, I can't work with anyone, and I don't believe I would be a good fit for them.
Yeah.
So it's just really having a long, honest conversation, whether that connection happens or not. I am absolutely always happy to refer people to other practitioners, and sometimes I find people who are reaching out to me, they really need, to talk to a therapist or mental health care provider, and that's not my place. So it's always about how do I help that person the best. So I work with a very small group of these professionals who are generally speaking healthy, and but they know they are stuck somewhere. Something is not quite working, and it may be impacting their health. It may be impacting their relationships with their work or at home, and they know they're on a new course. And sometimes when we go through this whole process, at first it always starts with the level of physiology and the level of the nervous system, understanding the actual practical part to really own it. It takes months to practice. But very often the thought patterns change. Of course, we work on the mindset, but unless we understand the base, the physiology, it's very difficult to go. So that's where I find my program is somewhat different, because I don't just work on limiting beliefs, because they are very relevant, but I always look at the pattern that is built inside the physiology of that person.
Because it is. All of us are unique in that way.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able. Well, a couple of things I think. One, you have to have that one-on-one trusting conversation that you talked about, but they also have to have. I mean, you have the expertise, the credibility when you walk in the room. There's got to be some certain kind of comfort level for whoever you're talking with, I would think. But there's also got to be some vulnerability issues with people who are who are really high strung, and I don't know how that works.
You know what? Once that place opens up for that honest conversation, it just becomes every consecutive session we go deeper. I sometimes find that it takes sometimes few weeks for to reach a completely new level of trust in the relationship with a client, and it generally goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I have not had experienced that once or twice, when by the time the second month came, all of a sudden they tell me, I have never told this story to anyone. I never even thought it was relevant, but now I'm realizing I need to talk about it.
Wow.
And this is what happened. And now all of a sudden things start connecting for them, for me, because this is like, we really grow as humans in this interaction, and we transform. Like, every relationship I have with clients changes me as well. But in this open space of conversation, that's why I say the transformation is very difficult to happen for somebody who is by themselves and just reads books. Because I can tell you, I had some of the smartest, most intelligent people who came to me who read pretty much every self-help book there is or studied science, and they were so broken inside.
Oh my
because
God.
it does not, a lot of these changes do not happen on intellectual level. They happen much deeper on a physiological and emotional level.
I can't imagine that we're so built around emotions. I can't imagine that the intellectual piece would fix much of anything, because you're just, I don't know, you're always on the quest, right? Where's the next book? Where's the next thing? And skipping the part of, I got to figure out a way to get in touch with myself. Let's start with that, right?
There is a Australian psychiatrist, and his name escapes me. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
But he was the one who said, and I'm just paraphrasing, that most people do not realize that our brain was the last organ to come on board. And so we had body for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before the brain came on board. So it's the last thing that came on board, but we glorify that part. And this is, of course, not to take away the mastery that we can achieve through our cognitive thinking and analysis and all of that. But we have forgotten that deep inside we are mammals, and we have so much wisdom that exists deep inside our body and our operating system.
I love that. So do you work, I think I heard you correctly, you work with a small group of leaders? So do you stay with like a person for quite a while, or how does that work?
Yeah, generally speaking, my private coaching programs, they will run at least for a year, because honestly, to see the shift in the pattern, it takes good 13 to 15 months. And anytime I have seen somebody shorter, because sometimes, people would think, it's 3 months, that's all I need. They will switch back, because the wiring inside is so powerful. It's like when you take a path a certain way for so long, it's like train tracks. Yep. You're going to want to go back to those train tracks over and over again, because that's where the tracks are. And now we need to build new tracks.
So you go back to a comfort zone that isn't necessarily, in fact, probably isn't often really a safe place for you to be. It's just a shortcut back to what feels comfortable, and it's not really what you're looking for.
That's for sure.
Wow. So you've got the book, you've got private sessions, you've got workshops, you got the 8-week course, you do the seminars. What do you do in your spare time? What do you do to take care of Edita?
I spend a lot of time taking care of her, because I am the model to my family. I had chosen also this field because I have been a mom first, and I have always said to myself, I can't teach others something that I will not model to my own family.
Love that.
And so to me, that's always one of those tricky things. Like, I often hear stories today how everybody wants to be, working really hard and, create this grit and resistance and work these long hours and create these massive ventures. And I'm not saying it's not a great thing, but I feel that there is also a huge loss to families. And I obviously, I really believe that men and women alike, they need to model this together. I think sometimes we hustle too much and create these big, powerful companies and run after a lot of money. But we forget that there's something maybe more powerful and more important for us that we forget to look after.
It's a well overused word, but somewhere balance has to raise its ugly head and go, hey, I'm over here. Let's do this for a while.
Yeah, and that's why, when you have no matter how well-intentioned, this is what I want to emphasize, this is not about placing guilt on people ever.
Right.
No matter how well-intentioned people are, and they spent 8 hours, running like crazy at work, or they had a difficult conversation with a client, or they didn't get the contract they were hoping for, and they come and they carry that energy with them.
Mm-hmm.
They can be driving their kids around, they can be talking to their husband, the stress they carry inside, that's what they're communicating, because our bodies receive that information in a way that, most of us don't even realize, because we are so verbal and we so assume if we give out directions, this is all going to be okay. But we often don't realize that this is what we are giving to our loved ones, is what we feel inside.
Because it comes out in the form of energy, for lack of a better term, right?
Absolutely.
Because they feel that no matter what you're saying, no matter how nice and polite you are, Dad, about buying me an ice cream cone, and I appreciate it, and I love you, but what the hell's going on?
I know. The mom and dad are somewhere inside their thoughts about something that happened at work, and, they're driving their kids to their activities.
Right.
So this is something that I am hoping to sort of help people understand better, and hopefully impact also the mental and emotional health of our younger generation, because I don't think we've ever had a generation that has been materially so well taken care of, but with such a high percent. Like, I was reading some of the stats and I don't remember them exactly, but the number of young, like teenage kids and even younger kids that struggle with mental health issues, it's just unprecedented.
Yeah.
And
I've heard that, and my wife and I are very blessed, because our kids, and I'm totally objective about this, so our kids, they're all different. We have 8 kids between us, 10 grandkids, 1 great-grandson, and each one of them are totally different. Each one of them have a strong work ethic. Each one of them know how to love and care for themselves in some meaningful way to them. Most of the time, which doesn't make any sense to their siblings, but that's okay. And, it's fun to watch as they get older, because you go, man, wish I could do that at his age.
Yeah.
It's a blessing what you do. I got to tell you, you're
oh
man. You have been on a journey for a long time, and your journey continues to grow. And your book, Awaken Your Inner Leader, Transform Stress, Develop Emotional Mastery, and Thrive, A Busy Professional's Roadmap to Freedom. And folks, if you go to the website, Edita Atteck, I'm going to mess that up, EDITAATTECK.com. You'll find a whole bunch of stuff on there about her speaking engagements, praise, which I love instead of the word referrals, and her blog. And then the other is wait for it, the e-course, MyWholenessRevolution.com, where you can check that out. But there are so many things on here that if you spend some time, I'm confident that you'll have a little aha, and you go, I need to check that out. So congratulations on changing one life at a time. It's impressive.
Thank you so much, David, and it's been an absolute honor to be on your show.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Listen to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/your20-minute podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.